Welcome to episode 12 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for sharing tips, apps, and gear for iPhone and iPad, along with other technologies that get us using iOS in fun, productive, and meaningful ways. I'm your host, Melissa Davis, and joining me as always is David Ginsburg. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing great, Melissa. So glad we're here for another episode. And boy, I have a lot of going on this next week. I don't know about you, but
I always have a lot going on,
some exciting times going on right now. So, we have the announcement coming up here soon, and that's going to be on September 12th. And I'm going to be extremely busy because on Saturday I have the Suburban Chicago Apple Users Group, of course, that's coming back. We've been on the 3-month hiatus, is it? Yeah, we haven't had.
Now, is that going to be so? The keynote's going to be in the morning, so you're going to watch that, and you're going to have to digest all that.
Well, I'm starting on Saturday first.
Your brain's going to be ready to just explode by the time you get to the.
But I start on Saturday before even Tuesday happens. So, because Saturday morning we do the Apple User Group, and I'll be presenting there, talking about iOS 11, what to expect. So I have to do a pre-show presentation on Saturday, and then yes, of course, then we move on to Tuesday, September 12th, which I will be taking a day off because it is a holiday. It's
a national holiday for us.
for us, so we have to celebrate that. And I thought, well, since I have both the reaction time episode I'll be doing for Mike Potter and Gaz and Eric and myself doing the reactions.
I can't behave myself on that.
It's just hard. Yeah, I know it's hard. it's hard to.
I've tried it. I don't know how you do it. I can't.
It takes a skill, but I've done enough times now. I think I know what to expect. Now, when I did the first one, it was interesting to say the least, because that was my first. I think it was my actual first podcast I did too. But we have that going on, and that'll go on for about two and a half hours, and then I have to prepare myself for the Apple User Group's iPhone Special Interest Group meeting. I'll have that night, so I'll be feverishly putting together all my notes. And
you better caffeinate.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But hey, I love doing this stuff. That's why you listen to us, and I provide all the great info that there is iOS and Apple. And
Dave's going to be running up and down the stairs to the Rocky theme song, getting ready, getting pumped, training for the event.
Yeah, it's going to be
And then you'll sleep for a week afterwards, right?
I don't know about a week, but
yeah,
maybe a day. So, but that's what's going on with me anyway. I don't know if you had any exciting Apple things going on with you.
I'm always steeped in something Apple related. I'm still, not still, again, I have a desk full of iPads that I'm setting up for my kids' school. They inherited some more from another level of a school. And, I guess they were done with them, or they must have moved on to some other hardware, Chromebooks or something like that. So then they were like, hey, can you take these and make them look like the other ones? I'm like, sure.
But that's a whole other story, right?
No, I do enjoy it. I mean, I got to be careful what I wish for. I do enjoy it. The geek in me, it's part mother, part geek. They go together, and I can't help it. And yes, give me the babies. I will clean them up and fix them up for you. So I've been enjoying Apple Configurator 2, and I've been supervising all these little devices.
You are one of the few. Also,
I'm the mother of MDM. Some people are the mother of dragons. I am the mother of MDM right now.
Speaking of Apple Configurator, I just brought it up. Another topic I'm just thinking off the top of my head here as we get into the show. Last week, I actually attended. I attended every year. If you're familiar with Mac Tech, which is more of an enterprise side of technology for Mac. And Apple.
I have always wanted to go to that, but being self-employed, it makes it a little difficult. So I'll have to live vicariously through you.
Good thing is that I get it paid by my company. So
right.
But they have different the pro or the 1-day sessions around the country. They've been reducing it to not as many cities this year. I mean, I think they cut out Dallas, and I don't remember other cities they cut out. It just wrapped up here. It was a couple weeks ago in August, and actually it was August 30th, so that was last week when we were recording this. And I also ended up seeing Tom Schmidt. He came down from Minnesota, so we had a good time, sat together, and learned a lot of different things as far as support, and there was a lot of support stuff. So a lot of stuff dealing with as far as that goes. But you mentioned that people were all talking about deploying and using Apple Configurator, and everybody talking about how they cannot stand using Apple Configurator. There's so many other of the deployment tools that they use. They're more on an enterprise level, of course, which makes it a little less.
But you kind of have to use it to get it into supervision mode. I mean, is there any other tool?
There's other tools. I won't get too deep into that because obviously this show isn't to talk about those type of deep tools, but yeah, there are other options out there. You were saying that, and it's a great little conference for really techie people. So,
it's the stuff I like to dig into.
Yeah, maybe in another episode we could dig into something like that to talk about. But I think our audience wants to hear about what's going on with iOS 11, and I think about the announcement. Wouldn't you think?
Well, yeah, but there is something to be said for things like MDM, like Jamf and stuff, and it is something I would like to dig into in the future. I just did sign up for a Jamf account. That's JAMF.
Yes. I'll be going to their conference next month.
Tinker with that. What's that?
I will be going to their conference next month.
Oh, well, then I'll have to pick your brain about that. I'm just curious about how it might be, as we're gonna dive into this soon, how it might be another way or maybe another option to sharing, iCloud and Apple IDs and all that kind of stuff. So it's just stuff I like to dabble in. Absolutely. I'm always looking for ways to help get people connected in families or groups of people using iOS together. So I think it relates.
But yes, we'll get to that in just a moment. But let's kind of talk a little bit about the event that's coming up. It's 1 week from yesterday, when we record this, so on September 12th.
12 days.
It's at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Or 6 days, I should say. It's the 6th now, so it's in 6 days. Less than a week.
Yep, and lots of speculation on what's going to get discussed. For sure, there's going to be new iPhones. I mean, that's been the big push. Some sites are saying that it's the new version 8, which is the top end, which will be the 10th anniversary, which will, everybody complaining about it's going to be over $1,000.
For the base model, though, I mean, I hear people complaining about it being $1,000, but
the base
isn't that
model
for like the top end?
And that's the top end. I don't know if it's the top end. No, it probably isn't. It's probably like 64 gig or maybe 256. Then they're talking about maybe there'll be a 7S and a 7S Plus, or another thing I heard too was it also could be the 8 and the 8S, which would be the two low end models, and they'll call the new one the Edition. Meaning
which still will make all of us people with OCD twitch a lot, because how dare they skip numbers?
Look what they did with the new iPad. The iPad. Well, really, it's the fifth generation, but it's just called iPad. Mm-hmm. So get even more.
Nomenclatures are hard, man.
I know it drives you crazy.
It does. It does.
So I think that's what's going to be talked about as far as iPhones. I would doubt very much that there would be any discussion about the iPad that was already in the last one, and I believe Apple TVs, they're talking about a 4K version of the Apple TV. That's definitely. You think
it's going to be predominantly iPhone and Apple TV as far as hardware is concerned?
I think so. The HomePod probably will get discussed too. I bet, because that's obviously during the session back in June they gave us a sneak peek, but it only has the. It was said to be ready to be released in December. So I'm sure
for the holidays.
Right for the holidays. So I'm sure that's going to get discussed, as well as maybe the iMac Pro might get mentioned a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised because
no love for Mac Minis.
Yeah, it's not looking pretty for the Mac Mini.
I know. I'm not really holding out hope for it much anymore.
Yeah, and of course the OS, iOS 11 is coming out. Definitely, I bet will get announced to be released on Tuesday. I've been running it for a little while now. I've got the beta 9, beta 10 is out for the developers. I can tell you, Melissa, I'm loving it. It's got a lot of great things. I've been running it since I decided to do it. Finally, I bit the bullet, because normally I don't put it on my production devices.
I know.
Still haven't put it on my iPhone yet, my primary iPhone.
Wow, you're getting bold.
No, I have not done that yet.
Oh, you haven't done that
no,
yet?
I have
not.
But
you're ready to.
I have it on, as you remember in MacStock, I had it on a iPhone SE that I have. So
right. Okay.
So I've been running it on that. But the iPad is just amazing, and we'll get deep into it, obviously.
And it's your iPad Pro.
The iPad Pro, right? 10.5. Yep. Mm-hmm. And we'll get deep into that probably in another episode. To really all the great things that it has. I mean, just the multitasking, be able to move things around. I'm still learning it myself because I hadn't have a lot of time to spend with it.
I know I'm going to have to catch up because I'm ready to pounce on an iPad. I'm just kind of waiting. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that everything's been announced before I jump on that.
Are you going to get just the straight iPad?
Yeah, I'm just going to get the regular iPad. I've been looking at it and I can't really. The iPad Pro is just a little bit overkill for our needs here in the house. You know what I mean? Because mostly the kids use it. I mean, there's basically two main reasons that I'm considering an iPad. And first and foremost, it's for business. I mean, I eat my own dog food, so I need to have something that can run iOS 11. And all I have is my iPhone, and my husband's, luckily his is a 5S, so it just meets the cutoff. After that, you can't run iOS 11 on anything older than a 5S. That's the cutoff for those devices. Right. And my current iPad is a 4th gen. So
I think that's cut off too.
It is time. It is time to upgrade the iPad. So now the kids, at least, one of them will get a dedicated older iPad. And, because of what I do need to keep older devices around. I do have to dabble in both worlds. I have to have something new and current, and then I have to have something that is at least a version or two behind, because I still have people that are lagging. So I always keep a bunch of old stuff around. So I'm excited to upgrade the iPad, but when it really comes down to it, it's basically for business so that I can grok the interface and for my kids to play on, because then they play all the educational apps, and there's a wealth of educational apps and stuff that they can do on an iPad instead of me having to constantly hand over my phone. So it really is more of a family device.
A couple things I'll throw out right away, and I've talked about them in the past, is the dock is just amazing. I mean, the apps are right there. You open up apps, it remembers the last apps you used, so you don't have to go hunting back for it if you don't have it bookmarked somewhere. Screenshots are just incredible. You're absolutely
that's what I cannot wait for. That is probably one of the biggest things that I'm itching to do, because just about every day I get a question from a client or something, and I go to answer it, and of course my way of answering is visual. A lot of times it's take a screenshot of something within the iOS operating system, something that they have a question on, and I'll use my annotation tools and I'll circle things and point to things and point things out. And each time I do it, I keep thinking to myself, oh, I wish this could be a little mini movie that I could send, as a gift or something. Yep. So I'm really itching for that.
I mean, just what I did a little while ago in our show notes for showing family sharing, which we'll talk about. I did that within a matter of seconds. I just screenshotted the window we wanted to look at, and I was able to immediately get to the edit tools and cropped it down. I could have circled things, marked things up, pointed things, just like you like to do, and be able to do that. So you're able to do that. The screen recording stuff is going to be that's available too, and that's going to be amazing. We went through all that too. So it just I can't wait. I think it's I really got to get up to speed, as it's hard. But there's a lot of great information out there with videos and people that are doing stuff with the beta stuff. So it's not a secret what's out there now. So.
Because it kind of used to be, didn't it? I mean, used to be a lot of the stuff was behind closed curtains, and
not anymore. Now, if there's the public beta, you can freely talk about this stuff. So it's not going to affect.
No more NDAs and things like that.
Well, there's kind of NDAs, like any of the stuff that I'm doing, because I have a developer account. As long as I know it's being talked about on beta 9, I'm not worried about it, because that's the public beta. When it's public, it's public. They know that, and they know that people are going to talk about it. So there's limitations.
Remind us where we're at now. Where are we at with betas right now?
It's beta 10 in the developer. It just came out actually earlier today.
Oh, okay. So is there a pattern for that? Like once we get to beta 10, does that mean that we're getting ready for Gold Master? Is that the next step? I
feel confident every time I've been on the beta program for a long time. When it's within less than a week before the announcement that that they're announced the new version to be released, I'm pretty confident that they're very close. And this is actually the most betas they've done on all previous versions. That they have never done 10 betas at once in one revision. So, but but there potentially could be another one coming up before Tuesday. I would tend to doubt it unless they find some bug fixes they have to release. But yeah, this is to me. I'd say by this weekend, my iPhone's probably going to have have the version on there before Tuesday, and I would venture to say that version would probably, if not be the gold master, would be very close. Within a version.
So you think you're pretty sure they're going to announce that go get it today or go get it.
They usually do that. I've seen them do it in the past. Apple, where they said iOS 11 is available today. And they've done that in past announcements. Last September, I think they did it with iOS 10. So, so yeah, they're pretty solid when it comes to doing that stuff. So
they're pretty good about under promising and over delivering.
Yeah, I would say that. So, but I'm excited, and we'll definitely will be talking about it next week after the announcement.
Yeah, we'll see how brave I get if I'm going to actually install it on my iPhone, on my main squeeze. I usually do because, like I said, I eat my own dog food. So I usually do it because I have to anticipate the clients are going to be calling me because a lot of them end up, as much as Apple does their hand-holding bit, you'd be surprised how many people have gotten roped into it and like, what have I done? Right. I get these calls and texts and why does it look like this? I'm like, yeah, you ran the update.
So before we get into the family sharing, that's going to be a big topic to discuss probably a good chunk of the rest of the show. I did find an article, and I think some people may have seen this. This support document, there was a 22-page document that actually got leaked on the internet, showing. This was actually published by Apple, unofficially, not to the public. It got leaked, showing what iPhones they will do as far as repairs under warranty, covering what they'll cover and what they won't cover. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at that, but
yeah, I did. This came out like last week sometime.
Yeah,
some recently, and I was looking over it because I was very curious about it.
But they said, eligibility for warranty service. We have it in the show notes, so you'll be able to see actually what it's showing. So it does show things that's eligible, like if they see debris under the glass or pixel abnormality. I've seen that camera be misaligned. They say a single hair crack in the front glass without point of impact. So,
well, I mean, I looked at this and it seemed like stuff that made sense to me. It didn't seem like a huge surprise. I don't know why it was made such a big deal out of it because that kind of stuff seems like manufacturing defects to me.
Right. So, I mean, then you go down to the other part of the page and it says that's eligible for out of warranty service. Liquid damage, of course. It's not their fault. But, Apple has they tell you that it's at their discretion. Sometimes they have done stuff. I see the bending. that was a problem, I think, with the phone itself. And then I think Apple never admitted that it was a problem. But that would be kind of strange.
I got so upset when that was made into like this whole gate thing, this whole bend gate thing. I was like, oh my God, people, there was 9. There was some report that there was 9 phones that it happened to. Come on. And it was made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
You think there was more?
It was, no. They were making a huge deal out of it. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But most of this out of warranty stuff, I mean, this to me makes it well worth purchasing the Apple Care on it because, I think you either pay $99 for the Apple Care, and if it's accidental damage, I think you have to pay it's $99 to have it replaced.
Yeah, I dug on that a while ago, and I need to revisit that, and maybe we should talk about that in a future episode about which of the warranties are the best bang for your buck, because it's not the answer depending on. It's a very personal choice, and it just depends on you as a user, which is the best bang for your buck. And it's not always Apple Care, is what I found in researching it and digging. I've always used Square Trade, but the problem is like I've never actually had to use it. So that's a good thing, and I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
But I've always, in all the research that I've done over the years, it used to be, and again, I don't know if this is the case anymore, and I'm coming up on probably expiration time soon anyway, because it's soon time to get a new iPhone. So that's something I have to revisit every 2 years. So we have to look into.
I've always bought the Apple Care. So it's like I said, that's probably a good topic for another show.
Yeah, we should dig into that.
why don't we dig into the sharing of the cloud? I know you were really gung-ho to talk about this, and that's great because I know a lot of people have issues, and we talked about having to create two separate Apple IDs and a lot of other stuff. So why don't you kind of jump in here, tell me what your thoughts were on setting up family sharing, and then obviously some issues with iOS 11.
So we touched on it a little bit last episode. I always challenge people to, well, as Apple says, think differently.
Right.
Don't always just use an app for its intended use. There are other ways that you can use things. And so I've always thought that way. And for the longest time, like we talked about in other episodes, I've had a his, hers, and ours, and then our individual accounts. And it's just
right.
kind of been that way. And I've been really, really getting tempted and curious about family sharing. And so I've just been thinking about this. And then when I heard that in iOS 11, you're supposed to be able to share iCloud space, then that got me even more excited about it. So it's brought me even closer to the edge. Like, should I really do this? The jury is still out, though. So that's why I'm really excited about the event on September 12th. And I'm going to be glued to my Apple TV watching it, waiting to see if they say anything. Now, of course, there's a chance that they may not say anything at all. We may have to read the fine print, but you'll see in the show notes, I'm going to be posting links to the knowledge base articles and the help articles that are out there right now. And so what we're going to be looking for is to look at, if you scroll to the bottom of these, there will always be a date of when it was published or when it was updated last. And so those dates is something I'm going to be looking at to see if there are any changes to that. So as it stands right now, in order to be able to use family sharing, you need to have a device that can run iOS 8 or later. So my personal thing, so if you want to use this as an example, as you're looking at your own families and your own devices, my kids are little, and I mean, it doesn't warrant getting them a big fancy brand new iPhone or anything. So they have hand-me-downs, and they are using an iPhone 4S. They each have one. We got one of those deals where you could get like a 99-cent one. It was a little 8 gigabyte version. Right. So, it's basically like an iPod is what they are. They're not phones. They don't have activated SIM cards in them, but they're really handy devices for them. And, my son's getting to be that age where he can be left at home alone if he's out from school sick. And, we tested out, made sure that it still dials 911, and he can do FaceTime calls with it when he's on Wi-Fi. They're still very capable, very usable, worthwhile devices. They're not something that, they're not paperweights. You know what I mean? We definitely use them. The kids use them pretty much each and every day. We have a kiddo that's, in middle school now, and we're thinking about actually giving him a cell phone, like actually activating a SIM card soon. And the question is going to be, well, is he going to get dad's hand-me-down 5S and take that to school? Or is that going to be like his home device that he uses, for play and for stuff at home? And are we going to give him the 4S? You know what I mean? Because he's at that age where, like, if it gets lost, I'd rather it be the 4S than the 5S. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So these are all things that we need to consider. There's still lots of older devices out there. Dave, you pointed to an article that talked about, or I guess it was something on Apple where they talk about the adoption rate. Where was that? So
yes.
since July 28th, as of July 28th, iOS 10 has an adoption rate of 87%. And iOS 9 is 10% of the pie, and earlier is 3% of the pie. So, of course, obviously, that's a significant amount of the devices out there, of course, are using iOS 10 because Apple makes it really easy to upgrade, except for that smaller margin of devices. So I'd venture to guess that that little portion of the pie that are devices that are running iOS 9 are probably older hardware. I don't think that there are that many people walking around out there. I mean, even my clients that are older, they know how to upgrade their iPhones and do incremental updates along with upgrades. It's really been made easy. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes they actually do it by accident and then they get a little spooked by it. So it's really easy to upgrade. So I venture to guess that piece of the pie probably represents families like mine, where you've got little kids that have hand-me-down devices, or even like older adults that might have a hand-me-down device that they don't need the latest and greatest thing. So that's probably what's represented there. So when it comes to iCloud, sharing and family sharing. Now, these are two separate animals right now. So if you've been like me and you've been looking in the Apple community discussion forums, which I recommend, I'm going to put links to it in the show notes, is a really great place to find information. You can look up questions, and it's one of these online communities where most people have the same or a very similar question. Mm-hmm. And when you go in there and you look up the topic of family sharing, you will see that for months and even years, people have been asking the same questions in just different variations. And the question has been, when can I share my iCloud storage with my family? And up until iOS 11, you have not been able to do that. You can share music and movies and apps, and I think even some certain subscriptions, but you can't share ringtones, I think, is one thing that has lopped off the list. And iCloud, up until iOS 11, you couldn't share. But that is changing. And so a lot of people are going to be rejoicing for the ability to be able to share iCloud. Right. So I'm in a situation right now where, like, my husband doesn't use a lot of storage. He's been pretty okay with the 5 gigabyte, the freebie version. There's been a few times where we have had to offload pictures and videos and things like that, but we've been able to do it. We live lean. I know, Dave, you're always talking about your problem with storage and drives. And I have lots of friends, Kevin, that have issues with they're addicted to buying drives all the time. And I'm in a situation where I am just about, I swear to God, it's going to be like one of those nerdy posts where you take a picture of your odometer reading on your car. When I get to like 50,000 or like maybe 49,999 pictures, I'm going to take a picture of it, Dave, and I'm going to send it to you. When I get to that upper limit of that 50,000, because I'm close to it now. And as a lot of people know already, I just got a puppy. And so that is just about ready to push me over to the edge of the 50,000 mark with pictures. But even prior to reaching that mark, I've had to upgrade to the 2 terabyte iCloud storage. Okay. So I've been pushed, just over the edge. And now I'm looking at this, how it shows you the progress or the bar that shows you all of the data that you're storing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, yeah, I just got to do it. I just got to bite it. I'm going to have to pay that $10 a month or whatever for that 2 terabyte. But of course, I'm not using all of it. And I really don't plan to use that much of it. I might maybe stick some more movies in there or something, but I want to get more bang for my buck. I want to make sure that this is going to be a good value, not just for me, but for our family. So I'm looking at that big bank of cloud storage space right now. And that's what's gotten me itching to find out about this. Like, here I've got one of my kids, so out of the 4 of us, there's my husband and my 2 sons. My older son and I are the ones that are the storage hogs. And he's a student, of course, he's starting to do more stuff. Of course, he has Google Apps for Education. He has that kind of stuff for school, but I always have him make up a backup copy in his iCloud. Well, now his iCloud's full. And he likes to take a lot of pictures, and I encourage that. He's a budding photographer. So now I'm in a situation where, I've got 2 terabytes, and I've got one kiddo out of the other remaining 3 family members that needs a little bit more than 5 gigabytes. So I'm kind of loath to spend another $1 a month just for one when I have this huge amount of space. Right. So can you feel my pain here, Dave?
No, I know. It's always been a challenge, and we've talked about this before. Just separating your accounts and having to get everybody their own iCloud storage, which is crazy. Yeah. I have it right now, whereas my wife has her own iCloud storage and I have my own. And now why am I paying for that when I can just move her over onto the same ID? What I may do is just get rid of one of her, one of the Apple IDs I have now that shares it, or we just put it in as shared instead of her having dedicated.
See, that's what I'm trying to hash out.
Keeping it separate, because for years and years and years, I'm going back iOS 7, probably iOS 8. I would always have 2 separate Apple IDs. I would always have one for purchasing. That's what I do for the App Store, the iTunes Store, and then we share that. And then we have 2 separate Apple IDs, which are iCloud IDs, that are strictly for backups and just syncing. So it syncs the contacts, it syncs the calendar, because so many families deal with the fact that they sync over. There are people they're getting text messages and getting in trouble too.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. I've worked with husband and wife teams where, this becomes an issue where they want to share one Apple ID across 2 devices. And sometimes now it's 3 because now you figure they have one Mac between them a lot of times, and they might have like 2 user accounts, or they'll have 1 user account. I mean, it just depends on, it's all very holistic, I always say, and it's very needs based, but I've sliced it and diced it so many different ways. I still wish I don't have an answer for everybody. There's no way to have one answer for everybody. But that's why I want to touch on. So there is a sale going on an app. I know this is further down in our show notes, but this makes me crazy, and it makes me feel like I need to make a mind map of it. Do you ever get the itch to do that? You're just like, I can't make sense of this all. I need to visualize it. I need to like draw pictures, and I need to like scribble on napkins and stuff. Well, there's an app that I really like on iOS that's called MindNode, and I've been itching to try it on the Mac, and it finally went on sale. So if you go to our show notes, you'll be able to see a link for it. And this isn't an affiliate or anything. We don't get anything out of this, but it's just something I want to share that normally, so MindNode 4 for iOS is $9.99, and then MindNode 2 for Mac OS is on sale for $19.99. So you can get, the reason why I say get them both is because then you can work between the 2 devices. And supposedly, I mean, David Sparks talks about it all the time. I hear other people talk about it, and I've been so wanting to play with this. And now that I have it on both devices, I can really dig in. So I can start some thoughts on my iPhone and then finish them up on my Mac, and then, show it up on my big screen, and then I can, go back and forth between the devices. So have you had a chance to play with this app at all? I
have not. I want to take a look at this, actually. It looks interesting. Being organized does this could help you. This kind of visual representation. I may even tell my wife about it too, because it just keeps things organized. She's a visual learner too, so
she might like it. You'll have to let me know if she digs it or not, because I want to dig in on this, and I always do this whenever I'm trying to make a really big decision. It's because this is something that's a huge commitment, because there are caveats when it comes to family sharing. Like, for example, you can join a family, but then if you change your mind, I think you can only do it like once every year or something like that.
Right.
There's stuff in the fine print. Again, we have to revisit that after the announcement and see if they're going to make any changes to any of that kind of stuff.
Well,
so
I would think they're going to have to make changes, because the older devices are not going to have the Files app. That's for sure.
Right.
iCloud Drive is supposed to go away, and that's what the Files app is replacing. So I would hope with the announcement they would say, okay, for those devices on older OSs that are using iOS 10 and later and earlier, who still have access to iCloud Drive, they could continue to use that. But they won't be able to. Obviously take advantage of the Files app, and that's where I think they need to clarify that as far as sharing goes.
Yeah,
it's always been a big issue. People wanting to be able to share their iCloud storage, and rightfully so. Why should we be paying all this extra money for multiple places to share? I mean, it's just like having a centralized NAS in your home, and you're sharing files that way. I mean, Apple should be allowing everybody to be able to do this with their other devices too. I mean, with iOS devices.
Well, think about how far they've come. I mean, they've come a long way from the days of
my God, Mobile Me.
What is it? Mobile Me, and what was it before that? iDisk.
iDisk, and I still have the original Mac.com email address. I mean, I have all of them. I mean, they all go to the same email. So, they had Mac.com.
We just kept gobbling them up thinking, someday it'll work, and we'll be able to rely on it.
Well,
and I think those days are coming. It's been pretty reliable. I've
been doing a good job. They've been doing a good job.
With OS Sierra, I'm using iCloud Drive, and I'm really enjoying it. And I think I just ran across something. I need to go dig it up. But I think I read something recently that we'll be able to use. Now, what should I say, Files or iCloud Drive? I mean, we'll be able to actually share links just like you can on Dropbox.
Right.
Or I guess that is coming, right? It's not there now.
No, it isn't. But you know what? Actually, no, that may not be true, because actually I've been on Facebook, and someone was actually sharing their they were doing some lists of equipment, the old Macs or what the current models are. And he did a numbers spreadsheet, and he did share it with iCloud, because he used to send the link within Facebook, and all you had to do was click it, and it opened it up right into iCloud. So I think you can do links now.
Yeah. Okay. It seemed like you couldn't do it like you could in Dropbox, and now I think.
Right. No, I mean it's gotten better for sure.
Right.
I mean it's definitely a lot better.
It's much more
than
of a contender than it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
So yeah, I mean I think it would make sense to. I don't know. I mean, do you think they're going to kill iCloud Drive?
I mean, that's what the rumor is. I just was kind of reading some stuff as we were talking here. Even when I went into imore.com, they're always one of the de facto places to find out about stuff. When they originally did the review of iCloud in iOS 11 back in June, Susie Ochos did it. She wrote up the article, and they said for sure the Files app is going to replace iCloud Drive. I mean, it says iCloud Drive app is going to be completely gone. And in its place is going to be the new Files app, which shows all your files stored in iCloud as well as third-party
accounts.
But
iCloud Drive as a service, will that stick around? It might not be an app.
If the service still sticks around, it'd be hard to say because I would think that it would have to be because of the older devices. I mean, people aren't going to switch over from iOS 10 right away. Some devices are
good about letting us keep stuff for a little while.
Yeah, like I say, we'll review the minimum requirements of iOS 11 in a minute here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the iPhone 5S is going to be the farthest you can go back now on the iPhone, which is pretty cool.
For iOS 11, at least.
Yeah, for iOS 11, right? Because iOS 11 is going to be the only one that allows the Files app. But the iCloud Drive app, from what they say, is going to go away because the Files app, not only is it going to work with iCloud Drive, but it'll also work with third-party services like Box and Dropbox and OneDrive, and even Adobe Creative Cloud and Google Drive will be part of the Files app too. So they're finally getting smart because they know people are using these file sharing systems, and then they aren't just using iCloud. And why not? Why not combine all of your file sharing? I mean, I got 100 gigabytes of space for Google. I mean, I use Box. I got 50 gigs of free space there. Dropbox. I have about 20 gigs. I definitely don't want to
put all my eggs in one basket.
But it's just one place you can go to and be able to get to them. Versus having to go out, because they're trying to create the experience of it being one Files app that you can get to all your files and be able to drag and drop. I mean, ultimately they want to make the iPad, the potentially to be your replacement computer, and this is one of the steps in the right direction of being able to manage all your files very easily through the sharing, and being able to do this with family sharing is going to be even bigger things. Now you guys can share all your files amongst yourselves with folders that can be distinguished between family members. It's going to make it a lot easier.
Where do you think the HomePod fits into all this then, too?
HomePod's going to be a whole other thing. I mean, that's going. I mean, honestly, I think Apple's a little late to the game on that because of Amazon. Amazon with the Amazon Echo.
They may be a little bit late to the game. I mean, they may have had this churning in the coffers for a long time.
I'm sure they have.
I always maintain that. I personally don't view it as them being late to the game. I always think that Apple sits and waits and watches everybody else get it out there and screw it up, and then they polish it, and then they release it. And it's not necessarily a copy of it, but they do it right. Do you want it done now, or do you want it done right, is what we would say.
I agree. So, I mean, in itself, I think this is going to be huge, and I be interesting to see when they make the final announcements, because obviously there are no articles out there as of yet that
and that's what I've been digging for. So that's why I feel like I need to make a mind map of all my thoughts, because I've been trying to do it in text, like in our notes, and of course these are just kind of notes between you and I, and I'll simplify it for our audience, but there's all these things that I need to consider that I want other people to be thinking of also. So, for example, I mean, there's a lot of people that are just like us out there that have a his or hers, or, you've got one account and then you've got another account, and then you share one Apple ID between the two of you just for purchases. So I want people to be thinking about and even give us feedback on that too. What are your thoughts what happens when you decide to sign up for family sharing? Which Apple ID do you make the family organizer? So that's a vocabulary term. It's called the organizer.
Right.
It's kind of like the Godfather, or the Godmother. Which of those accounts do you deem the organizer? That's my first hurdle that I need to get through. Okay. I need to figure out which one is going to be the organizer. So have you thought about that at all? I mean, do you think that your shared account would be the organizer and then you would enlist? Because that's one option I thought about. Again, it needs to go on a mind map, and I need to chill on it for a while. But if we start out with the shared account that we've been using all this time as the organizer, then we enlist ourselves as family members.
Right, because what happens is...
Not children, but as family members.
What happens is those other accounts don't have apps linked to them. So how are you going to share all those apps?
Because all the apps have been purchased by the shared account.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
So if I started out my new family sharing as me being the organizer, I'm not the one that has actually purchased the apps. The shared account has.
I think you just answered your own question. I think what we'll end up having to do is, and I might play around with it. I've been very, very hesitant to mess with family sharing just for the sheer reason of it, because I worry it's going to get so screwed up. But I would think that my purchasing account would be the place to start it as the initiator, as the organizer, and then let the other. So I could play with it and say, okay, my iCloud account, which is my iCloud backup account, and as well as my wife's, we could have those be the family sharing, and then just the primary account takes those in. So then now the apps can be the organizer, right? So then those apps can continue could easily be shared without a problem, and because obviously I'm not going to be duplicate
and
purchasing songs too with movies. Apple Music. Apple Music's the other thing because you don't have Apple because I have Apple Music, and it has to be on that primary account. That's
a little bit out of our budget for our family because we have so many people. But so we've just purchased songs. I mean, the kids are starting to get an interest in music, so we just have purchased songs. So that's something that we would lose if we went with like me as the organizer.
Right.
So so that's tricky.
That could be tricky, and then the same thing with music. That if some people have iTunes Match still, you won't be able to share songs that aren't available in iCloud or are available on the music store.
Right, and I don't think ringtones get shared either.
Right.
So there still are some very individual things that don't get shared, no matter if you're in a family or not. And I think ringtones is one of those sticky things where I wish they'd fix that, because I've run into problems where people have gotten new devices or something and their ringtones didn't transfer and they had to repurchase them. I hope they fix that. That would be really nice if they fix that.
There's always that hope. So there's always that hope.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll be watching the keynote to figure out, see if it's probably going to be one of those like quick slides that somebody's going to hopefully take a screen capture of, where they, they might talk about the system requirements. We might see what gets lopped off, at the back end. So I'm going to be looking for that. I'm going to be checking these knowledge base articles to see if the dates change, see if they update that information. I'm going to be looking to see what kinds of things you should consider if you do want to make the leap, just solely for the reason of being able to share your iCloud with family members. I mean, that's kind of the big push to get. And it could be that maybe they're doing this because they want more people on family sharing accounts. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like maybe it's an oversight on their part that so many people have been living like we have, where you've got basically between just one married couple, you've got 3 Apple IDs. And then that's not including, like, if you have like me, I have my personal Apple ID, and then I have my business Apple IDs. Right. There's so many Apple IDs out there. So it could be an effort to try to maybe simplify things for people. I don't know. But it's going to be a welcome change so long as it fits. So that's something to consider, is which of think very carefully before you commit to it, because it is a commitment and that's going to be really hard to back out of once you do commit to it. Think about which of your Apple IDs you want to deem the organizer. And then another thing for me, I know you don't have this issue, but I've got 2 little kids, and they were born a long time before the whole, COPPA, where you had to be 13 in order to sign up for accounts and stuff. So of course, I'm not a terrible parent, but of course I lied about their ages so that I could create Apple IDs for my kids. I don't know. I don't think it's bad parenting or anything. It's just you do what you got to do, because otherwise you can't, without a family plan, you can't create accounts for them. Right. So you have to, there's no other choice but to lie about their ages. So you have to make them over 18 or whatever the age is, over 13 it is. So if I do this, then another decision that I have to make is, do I want to keep my kids at their lied about ages, or do I really want to harness all of the parental controls? So I had to, kind of decide. I'm going to have to look at all these things. Do I want Apple to parent my children, or do I want to continue parenting my children? Or, do I want to have, where's going to be the balance between those two things? So I'll probably start out by just keeping their ages as not their actual ages. And then I might decide that I may want to do that, because up until now, they're 7 and 11. Up until now, I haven't had that need.
Right.
But as they do get older, I do start to feel the need of, I think I do want some more parental controls. Although when you roll your own, you kind of have like your own granularity that you can apply to it.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm going to have to think about. And if I do decide to change their ages, that's something I can't back out of. I'm not, once I make the decision, I have to commit to it. And I'm going to have to wait until I enroll them as family members to be able to even change their ages, because otherwise you can't do it. So that's something I want people to think about too. If you're listening and you have a family, what are the details of all those accounts? Get all your ducks in a row and make sure that you understand what it is that you're signing up for.
Yeah. So I was, you remember you just mentioned a little bit ago about that pesky slide that they put up with all those features that they're going to have, and they don't explain it. And then you have to do a screenshot of it so you can see it later. So I'm looking at the slide. They actually put it on iMore back in the June announcement for iOS 11. And a couple things I do see here. It does say iCloud family storage plans, and also says, as I mentioned, we talked about music, iCloud family Apple Music integration. And then what was the other one? It said unified iCloud Drive trash. So if something gets trashed, it's unified.
Wow.
They even say in here streamlined family setup. So that could be, that's another piece of this puzzle. When I was talking about family sharing. So all those are kind of in little words here that they didn't talk about at the June event.
I just need to clone my family to have like a test user family is what I need.
Yeah, or create a dummy setup.
We need a doppelganger or something.
Create some like we all have like a multiple iCloud accounts and see what happens with it. But it looks like just them talking about it here in this slide from back in June. They definitely have this in mind. I think it'll probably finally get announced. I don't know if it'll necessarily get talked about too much during the keynote next week, but it's very possible that.
Well, what about but go back to iCloud again. Now I went, like I just said, I went and purchased a 2 terabyte.
Right. I have a 20
gigabyte. Subscribe to it. Well, if I'm not the organizer, that means that I'm going to have to cancel. I'm going to have to first set up. I probably have to pay twice temporarily. I'm going to have to probably set up the organizer account and subscribe to the 2. And I think they're pretty good about charging you. What is the word? Retroactively?
Right.
Like,
yeah, they'll let you can cancel.
I don't think I'll have to pay for the full month if I do decide to do that. But I think isn't that the way you would go about it? You'd go and make the family organizer be the person who has the 2 terabyte plan, the iCloud, and then I would have to add myself on.
Time it to cancel just before at the beginning of the month, so then you'll have a whole month to do it. So, but yeah, it's out there, and
many things to think about, right?
So, if we also have this in the show notes, it shows a list of all the compatible devices with iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch for iOS 11. As we said, the oldest you can go on the iPhone is 5S. All the models above after that, no problem. And in the iPad, it looks like everything's covered in the 12.9, 9.7.
My 4th gen is cut off.
Yeah, but the Air 2 and the Air and the 5th gen, which is new, are the only ones that are available in the full size. So anything beyond the Air is out of luck. And then the Mini, it has 4, 3, and 2, which is actually surprising. 2 is still on that list. The iPad Mini 2. And then, of course, there's still the iPod Touch that continues to keep chugging along there.
I don't know. I think there'll always be room for an iPod Touch, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I had a 5th gen. That I was,
and that's cut off because now it's the 6th.
That's been cut off since 10. Yeah. So
yeah.
So actually, no, I think it's cut off of 9. I think about it.
9.3.5.
Yeah, it's just like the iPad 2 because they didn't put very powerful processors in there. So I got the SE, so it's
See, and that's something that I mean, as much as I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to go for just the basic iPad model.
Yeah, no, you know what?
That's
I played with that
something I think about for the future. I'm going to end up with the same kind of deal where I have now, where it's probably going to be one of the first ones that gets lopped off in 2 or 3 iterations of operating systems from moving forward, right?
Yep.
Because it's the processor.
Right, exactly.
So
that's what's going to happen.
It's hard to future-proof that stuff.
Yeah, it really is. So, and then talking about backups, we talked about this app before, iMazing
Yes.
Mini. It's a great app, and I've had the full version for quite a while, but then they came out with a mini version, which is free, which is really awesome.
I just installed it 2 nights ago.
Okay,
I've
good.
really been enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, and you were talking about one of the big things people want to be able to do is backing up their iMessages and backing up their phone.
I want to make sure that we mention that in this episode, as we're basically giving you food for thought to think about as you go into the horizon of iOS 11 and thinking about purchasing new devices. Think about the preparation work that you need to do ahead of time, and iMazing is one of those tools that helps you out with that kind of stuff. So I usually use it right around these times when it's time to upgrade to a major operating system. That's usually kind of my sort of a spring cleaning. It's just kind of it's a thing that I do. It's like changing your clocks, except that in Arizona we don't have to do that. So I usually offload all of my iMessage messages, and iMazing has a really great tool where you can take all of your messages and export it into a PDF.
That's awesome.
And depending on how you set it up, you'll even have like different colored bubbles so you can see, and it'll show their avatars. If you have pictures like I do, I make sure that everybody has a picture in my contacts.
Imagine my
so
picture.
You can see each side of the conversation. And then it's searchable too, because it's a PDF format. I think you can export it as text also. Mm-hmm. And then you can also export all of the attachments. So, all those love letters that you've been texting back and forth to each other, or pictures of new babies or puppies, or, important screenshots and documentation. I mean, for me, it's really, I use it mostly for business because I like to keep an archive of conversations that I've had with clients, because a lot of times they'll ask me the same question over and over again because they forget. And having that iMessage log is really, really important. So I just save all of my messages, and then come time, and even in between there, I don't usually wait this long to do it just one time. I usually do it multiple times throughout the year. I'll actually go through iMazing and export all of my iMessage conversations to a PDF. I'll take all the attachments, the pictures and stuff, and I kind of go through them, and I sort of I don't need that map anymore. Those kinds of those screenshots or that picture. I have that 5 other places, or, kind of go through and purge what you don't need and archive the rest. So it's a really helpful tool for that. Is that how you use iMazing, or do you use it for any other
purposes? I mean, just I could do a full out backup, which is nice. I'm pretty confident with the iCloud backup, so that's always been my primary place to back this up. But I decided lately, once they came out with the iMazing Mini and some of the great tools they've added to this app, that it's really made a huge difference making a backup, because it doesn't hurt to do a backup beyond just iCloud, just to be safe. You always tell people you want to back up into iTunes, but and iTunes works, but I think this app is pretty good, and I think the full version.
It does it wirelessly though. That's what's really cool about it.
Which is pretty slick.
I used it to back up my husband's iPhone, so this is another. I mean, there's so many reasons to use iMazing, but another way that I use it is that we can live lean, because we have older devices that are 16 gigabytes still, and so my husband's rocking the 16 gigabyte iPhone, and so like I said, we've had to offload stuff, and so we've used iMazing to offload pictures and videos and things like that,
right? And
it just makes it a lot easier to do that and pare it down to just the basics of what he needs. And then because I've done that now, since they've released the iMazing Mini, now, like I said, I've been playing with it the last couple of days. Now I get a little notification when my husband's home, because I've already used it to back up his iPhone once. Now I could just click it from the menu bar, and I don't even have to pester him. I don't have to be like, can I have your iPhone? Come on, I need to do some maintenance on it. I don't have to pester him for it. I don't have to pry it out of his hands or anything. And I can just do it wirelessly. And it alerts me to it. So I really like that feature.
I hear you. Yeah, so it's a great app. We have the link in the show notes, and amazing. Even if you get the full version, the mini is great. The mini version is free, and that's great. But the full version I really like has got a lot more powerful features that you can get to.
You can extract stuff. I've already been able to use it for school apps and extract data out of apps that otherwise you couldn't get. So.
Exactly. So I think it's only like $30. It's not that expensive. So
it's worth it.
It is really worth it. And like I said, I've had the iMazing full version for quite a while, and it's worked really well. So definitely check that out.
I've worked with the developers, so they've given me review versions over the years, and they're really responsive. And you have a question, they'll answer it. So I really recommend it. Not just because they give it to me, but because it's beautifully designed and it works really well.
Well, they haven't given me anything, and I've fully paid for it, so I can say it's great. So with that, I think we're getting close to wrapping this sucker up, huh?
I think we've digested most of all my notes. And
one thing I wanted to mention as far as my personal going out with the other podcasts I mentioned earlier that I'm doing for Mac Eyes Only next week. I'm pretty excited about that. One thing I do want to tell everybody, which I'm really excited about, is I'm now a permanent regular on iChart Radio with Mike LaPlante.
Yes, you are.
I'm super excited about that.
And I listened to the last episode too.
Oh, you did? Okay, we'll have to talk offline about it and see what you thought. But I'm real excited. Mike was very kind. He kind of like threw me off. He just asked me to record again. I'm like, oh, sure, I'd be happy to. And then just before the show, he says, would you like to be a regular? I'm like, yeah. So. And I also felt bad, but I understand too. Is I actually I'm filling the shoes of Allison Sheridan of the Mozilla podcast.
Those are some big shoes.
There's some very big shoes to fill, but she is a busy lady, so I can kind of see why that she could. You gotta. There's only so many things you can do, and I'm always seeing her do something. So, but
she's retired.
And she's retired from rural work, but she does lots of other work. But she's a great gal, and we love her, and we love listening to her show too. So, but yeah, that's I'm pretty excited about that, and I wanted to give a shout out to Mike LaPlante. I appreciate you doing that. And I'm looking forward to the next episode. It's gonna be fun for at least what I'm doing. But he's got a rotating group of about 6 of us, which is actually pretty. I think that's perfect because then I don't have to do it every week.
There you go. Yeah, because
we do this every week. So
lots of projects. Yeah, I hear you. And I also do another podcast too, and not just this one, but I also do Geekiest Show Ever.
It is very geeky.
Kevin and Elisa and Mike, and we're going to do that just about every other week or so when we can, and. It's just it's Geekiest Show Ever, and we just sit around and geek out and just talk about techie stuff, and it's just a lot of fun to just sit and hang out with your friends.
Yeah. So, but this has been exciting so far, and we got quite a journey with this podcast, and we're going to keep going. And I know I can speak for you as well, Melissa, that this is a lot of fun. I mean, we have a lot of great things we can talk about. We'll continue this on and have some fun, huh?
All right, well, let's put a bow on it. What do you say? All right, thanks for listening, and we hope you're more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher and show your friends how to look for us in iTunes. We look forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I'm Melissa Davis, and you can find me online all over at the Mac Mommy.
And I'm Dave Ginsburg, and I'm at Twitter at DaveG65.
All right, until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye for now.